If you've been taking a magnesium supplement every day, hoping it would help your sleep, your muscle cramps, or that tight, wired feeling in your chest, and nothing has changed, there's a reason. It's not that magnesium doesn't work. It's that the bottle in your cabinet is very likely the wrong form. Somewhere between 4 and 20% of the magnesium in that pill is actually making it into your bloodstream. The rest is passing straight through you. That's not a typo. The most common form of magnesium sold in pharmacies, the one in the big bottle with the lowest price tag, is called magnesium oxide. And study after study has shown that your body absorbs almost none of it. You've been paying for a supplement that is, biologically speaking, mostly decoration. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly why that happens, which forms of magnesium your body can actually use, and which specific form matches which specific problem, whether that's sleep, anxiety, muscle cramps, blood sugar, or brain fog. By the end, you'll know exactly what to look for on a label, and exactly what to avoid. Let's start with why this mineral matters so much in the first place. Magnesium isn't a minor player. It's a required helper for over 300 separate enzyme reactions in your body. It helps your muscles contract and then relax again. It helps your nerves fire signals in a controlled way instead of misfiring. It helps your body produce energy inside your cells. And it helps regulate the stress hormone system that, when it runs unchecked, leaves you feeling wired at 11 at night and exhausted at 7 in the morning. Think of magnesium as the electrician of your body. Every time a muscle needs to contract, every time a nerve needs to send a signal, every time a cell needs to produce energy, magnesium is the one flipping the switch. Without enough of it on hand, those switches start to misfire. Muscles cramp when they should relax. Nerves stay excited when they should calm down. Sleep becomes shallow instead of deep. And here's the part almost nobody tells you: as you get older, your body becomes less efficient at absorbing magnesium from food, and at the same time, your kidneys let more of it slip out through urine. Certain common medications, including some blood pressure drugs and acid reflux medications, drain it further. So the need goes up right at the exact moment your body's ability to hold onto it goes down. This is why magnesium deficiency is thought to affect a very large share of older adults, even those who believe they're eating reasonably well. So the question becomes, if you can't fully rely on food, and your body is losing magnesium faster than it used to, can a supplement fill that gap? The answer is yes. But only if it's a form your digestive system can actually break down and absorb. And that's where most people get it wrong. Now let's go deeper into the actual science of absorption, because this is the part that determines whether your supplement does anything at all. Magnesium never enters your bloodstream as raw magnesium. It has to be bound to something else, called a carrier molecule, in order to survive your stomach acid and get pulled through the wall of your small intestine. Different carrier molecules behave completely differently once they hit your digestive tract, and that difference is the entire story. Magnesium oxide binds magnesium to oxygen. It's cheap to manufacture, and on paper, it looks impressive, because oxide has a very high percentage of elemental magnesium by weight. But that bond is what's called poorly soluble. It doesn't dissolve well in water, and it doesn't dissolve well in your gut. A study published in the journal Magnesium Research, comparing different oral magnesium forms, found that magnesium oxide had an absorption rate of roughly 4%, compared to over 30% for more soluble forms taken under the same conditions. Think of it like trying to water a garden with a hose that's almost entirely clogged. A little bit trickles through. Most of it just sits there. And where does the unabsorbed magnesium oxide go? Straight into your large intestine, where it pulls water in with it. That's why magnesium oxide is actually sold separately as a laxative. The very reason it works for constipation is the same reason it fails as a nutritional supplement. It isn't being absorbed. It's passing through. Magnesium citrate is a step up. Here, magnesium is bound to citric acid, the same acid found naturally in citrus fruit. This bond is far more water-soluble, and absorption studies place it in the range of 25 to 30%, 6 to 7 times higher than oxide. It's also gentler on the gut than people expect at moderate doses, though at higher amounts it can still have a mild laxative effect, since it draws some water into the intestine as well. Citrate is a reasonable, affordable, widely available option, and it's the one most doctors will recommend if you ask them for something better than oxide. Then there's magnesium glycinate, where magnesium is bound to glycine, which is calming amino acid that your brain also uses as its own signaling molecule. This bond is what's called a chelate, meaning the magnesium is essentially wrapped inside the amino acid, protecting it through digestion and allowing it to be absorbed through a completely different pathway than oxide or citrate use, one that piggybacks on your body's amino acid transport system. Research on chelated mineral forms shows glycinate reaching absorption rates in the 80 to 90% range in some comparisons, dramatically higher than the older salt-based forms. And because glycine itself has calming properties on the nervous system, this form does double duty. You get the magnesium, and you get a secondary calming effect from the carrier molecule itself. This is why glycinate has become the go-to recommendation for sleep and anxiety. And finally, there's magnesium threonate, technically magnesium L-threonate, developed out of research at MIT looking specifically at brain magnesium levels. What makes threonate unique isn't necessarily a higher overall absorption number, it's where it goes once absorbed. Threonate is one of the only forms shown in animal studies to meaningfully cross the blood-brain barrier and raise magnesium levels specifically inside brain tissue, not just in the bloodstream. A study published in the journal Neuron found that elevating brain magnesium through this compound improved measures of learning and short-term memory in aged rats. That's a very different target than citrate or glycinate. Threonate isn't primarily about your muscles or your gut. It's about your brain. So now you can see the picture. It's not that some magnesium forms are good and others are bad. It's that each form is shaped differently, and that shape determines where in your body it actually goes to work. And this is where food and supplement choice come in. Let's go through, one at a time, which form to reach for depending on what you're actually trying to fix. First, magnesium glycinate, for sleep and anxiety. If you're lying awake at night with your mind racing, or you carry tension in your shoulders and jaw that won't release, glycinate is the form built for you. The glycine component binds to receptors in your brain that promote calm, working alongside the magnesium itself, which helps regulate the stress hormone system. A typical dose used in sleep-focused research is 200 to 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium, taken 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Practical tip: look for a label that says magnesium glycinate or magnesium bisglycinate, not simply magnesium with glycine listed as a minor ingredient. And take it with a small amount of food to reduce the chance of an upset stomach. Second, magnesium threonate, for memory and brain fog. If what concerns you is mental sharpness, word finding, or that foggy feeling by mid-afternoon, threonate is the form aimed specifically at brain tissue. Because it's a newer, patented compound, it tends to be more expensive, and doses in research have ranged from 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of the compound itself, which translates to roughly 144 milligrams of elemental magnesium. Practical tip: check the supplement facts panel for elemental magnesium content, not just the total compound weight, since threonate's percentage of actual elemental magnesium is lower than other forms. Third, magnesium citrate, for constipation and general topping up. If your main issue is irregularity, or you simply want an affordable, well-absorbed baseline form without a specific target like sleep or memory, citrate is the practical everyday choice. A typical general dose is 200 to 400 milligrams, taken with a meal. Practical tip: start at the lower end of the dose range and increase gradually, since citrate's mild water-drawing effect in the intestine means jumping straight to a high dose can cause loose stools. Fourth, magnesium malate, for energy and muscle soreness. Here, magnesium is bound to malic acid, a compound directly involved in your cell's energy production pathway. Some research on individuals with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue has shown improvements in pain and tenderness scores with malate supplementation, and it's generally considered gentle on the stomach. If your main complaint is daytime fatigue or lingering muscle soreness rather than sleep or anxiety, this is the more targeted option. Fifth, topical magnesium, for cramping and restless legs. Magnesium chloride, applied as a spray or soaked in a bath as Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, bypasses digestion altogether. The evidence for how much is truly absorbed through skin is mixed and still debated among researchers, but for localized nighttime leg cramps, many people find a topical application before bed provides noticeable relief, and there's essentially no downside to trying it alongside an oral form. So to summarize the stack, glycinate calms the nervous system and supports sleep. Threonate targets the brain specifically. Citrate handles general levels and digestive regularity. Malate supports cellular energy and muscle comfort. And topical magnesium offers localized, fast-acting relief for cramping. You don't need all 5. You need to match the form to the problem you actually have. Now, let's cover the mistakes that quietly sabotage even a well-chosen magnesium supplement. Mistake number 1, buying based on milligram number alone. A bottle that boasts 500 milligrams of magnesium oxide sounds more impressive than a bottle with 200 milligrams of glycinate. But because oxide absorbs at roughly 4% and glycinate absorbs at closer to 80%, that smaller glycinate dose delivers dramatically more usable magnesium into your body. The fix: ignore the big number on the front of the bottle and read the actual form listed in the ingredients. Mistake number 2, taking it at the wrong time relative to other minerals. Calcium and magnesium compete for the same absorption pathway in your gut. Taking a high-dose calcium supplement at the exact same time as your magnesium can meaningfully blunt how much magnesium gets through. The fix: if you take both, separate them by at least 2 hours, or take magnesium at night and calcium in the morning. Mistake number 3, taking too much at once instead of splitting the dose. Your intestine can only absorb so much magnesium in a single sitting. Roughly 350 to 400 milligrams tends to be the practical ceiling before the excess simply isn't absorbed and instead draws water into the bowel. The fix: if your target dose is higher than that, split it, for example half in the morning and half in the evening, rather than taking it all at once. Mistake number 4, assuming more is automatically better, especially with kidney concerns. Because your kidneys are responsible for clearing excess magnesium, anyone with reduced kidney function needs to be cautious with high-dose supplementation, since magnesium can build up in the blood rather than being cleared normally. The fix: if you have any kidney condition, or you're on medications that affect kidney function, talk with your doctor before starting a magnesium regimen, and never assume a higher dose is automatically safer or more effective. Mistake number 5, expecting an overnight transformation. Magnesium status in your body shifts gradually, since your body stores much of its magnesium in bone and soft tissue, not just in the bloodstream, and it takes time to rebuild those stores. The fix: give a chosen form at least 3 to 4 weeks of consistent daily use before deciding whether it's working for you. So what should you actually expect, and when? Within the first few days, if sleep or anxiety was your target and glycinate is a good match for your body, some people notice a subtle shift, a little less tension in the jaw or shoulders by evening, a slightly easier time settling down at night. This isn't universal, and it isn't dramatic, but it's often the first sign something is working. Within 1 to 2 weeks, muscle cramping, particularly nighttime leg cramps, tends to improve for those whose cramping was linked to low magnesium status. Sleep quality, if you're tracking it, often shows a modest but measurable improvement, deeper stretches of uninterrupted sleep rather than a completely different sleep pattern. Within 1 to 3 months, this is where the deeper changes tend to show up. For those using threonate consistently, some report improved day-to-day mental clarity. For those focused on general levels through citrate or malate, markers like daytime energy and stress resilience tend to shift gradually. This is a rebuilding process, not a light switch. Consistency over these weeks is what determines the outcome, far more than the specific brand you chose. Before we close, a few practical tips that make all of this easier to apply. First, check for third-party testing. Look for a USP-verified mark or NSF certification on the bottle. Because supplements aren't regulated with the same rigor as prescription medications, third-party testing is your best evidence that the bottle actually contains what the label claims, at the dose it claims. Second, read the elemental magnesium line specifically, not the compound weight. A label might say magnesium glycinate, 1000 milligrams, but the elemental magnesium inside that 1000 milligrams might only be 100 to 200 milligrams, since the glycine carrier makes up much of that weight. This is the actual number you should be comparing across products. Third, pair your supplement choice with magnesium-rich foods rather than relying on pills alone. Pumpkin seeds, spinach, almonds, and black beans are all meaningfully high in magnesium, and getting a baseline from food reduces how much you need to supplement, while also delivering fiber and other nutrients your body needs anyway. Fourth, if a particular form causes loose stools, that's useful information, not a failure. It tells you that you've likely exceeded what your gut can absorb at that dose, or that the specific carrier, often citrate at high doses, isn't the best match for your digestive system. Simply lowering the dose or switching carriers usually resolves it. Fifth, track something concrete rather than relying on how you feel. Whether that's the number of nights per week you experience a leg cramp, how long it takes you to fall asleep, or a simple 1 to 10 rating of daytime mental clarity, having a number gives you real evidence of whether a specific form is actually working for you, rather than guessing. So here's what this all comes down to. Magnesium itself isn't the variable that matters most. The carrier molecule it's attached to is. That single choice, oxide versus citrate versus glycinate versus threonate, is the difference between a supplement that mostly passes through you unused, and one that actually reaches your muscles, your nervous system, or your brain, depending on what you chose. You now know which form matches which goal, and what to look for on the label the next time you're standing in that supplement aisle. The rest is simply a matter of picking the right tool for what your body actually needs, and giving it the weeks of consistency required to do its work.